Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Get Wealthy with me. I'm Sharon, the Modern Savvy CPA. Today, I have Anthony Nunez with me. He was my tattoo artist, helping me check off my 50 bucket list of getting my first tattoo. So I was a virgin tattooer when I went to him, and he popped my tattoo cherry.
And once again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. We are excited to have you today. We had a super good conversation when I was sitting in your chair, virtual chair.
Yeah.
And I think my concentration is teaching your generation about financial education and making sure that you guys understand how the world works because it's so different from my generation and the generation before us. So, I think that talking to you and understanding, because you're kind of like an entrepreneur, because you are a tattoo artist, and my thoughts on art on ink is different today than it was 20 or 30 years ago. Do you find that a lot of the people that you
Oh, 100%. Like the it's opened up so much now. It's cool to not have any tattoos.
not to have tattoos?
Yeah, it's cool to not have any tattoos.
Really?
Like it started as, oh, you were such a badass that you had a sleeve. Now everybody has a sleeve.
Right.
Every person has a tattoo. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So now it's like the cool people are the people that are untatted. That's a joke that me and that's a joke that I have with some of my people that I work with. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But it's super awesome, and I love to see great work out in the world. But I just reference that to just show how much the world has changed,
Right.
and how the people and how many tattoos are out there now,
Right.
versus how many tattoos. Maybe you were in a biker gang back then,
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
you had two sleeves. People were like, "What the heck?"
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's changed so much now.
So that's the connotation. So, when I was younger, when I was your age, it was okay. One or two people would have it, but not everybody had one. Today, and I honestly, because I was such a good girl,
Yeah.
I honestly didn't think that that was something I would ever do, right? Because if I did it, it would not be the thing to do. It's not what a good girl does.
Yeah.
So, but that's when I looked at it as a tattoo. Today, I look at it differently. Like when I see someone with tattoos, I ask them questions because there's a story behind it.
And it's fun to be bad sometimes, right?
I'm learning that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great getting well, at first when I started thinking about getting a tattoo, it was kind of rebellious because I'm the oldest of three girls, and my mom is always dependent and my dad was always dependent that okay, you got to do everything right because your sisters are not listening.
Yeah.
So that's how it was. My sisters, they've had tattoos for decades. They're younger than I am, but they both have several tattoos. But at first it was rebellious, but then I found my meaning. Like I always knew I wanted the cross because I've went through a lot in my journey in my 5 decades of living, and faith is the one thing that got me through. So but the butterflies that I have on the side is they represent something. So they represent the three things that I love the most in life, and that's my two children, my two boys, Brandon and Mark, and my mom. And so the third butterfly is my mother because she's literally the wind beneath my wings. She doesn't, all the calculated risk I take and all the things I do in my life and all the investments I make, she does not know what I'm doing, but she's always there to support me.
That's it. She has faith in you. Totally.
She has total, I'm like, Ma, you coming? Like, and she's like, okay, I'm coming.
She has
And
total faith in her creation.
she
That's
does. She's like,
Yes.
okay, I'm coming. Whatever it is you're doing. She does not even understand all the investment stuff. She doesn't understand the housing stuff, the real estate stuff, even the podcasting. She doesn't understand that much, but she's totally supportive and she's there. She's here when we had to put the studio together, helping me with all of that. So that's why she's one of the butterflies. So now I'm very fascinated. Like when I'm out and, like for example, I went on a cruise the other day and there was this couple and the guy had, and they were my age, and the guy had his tattoos. We were in the pool, so you see everything, right? And the lady had stuff, and they had kids my age and everything, but they had a story behind everyone. And the story is amazing. What are your thoughts on when in your journey while you're working
Well,
on these people?
I tattoo people for all different reasons.
Right.
Some people come in because they just got through a breakup and they're sad and they need to feel something. Other people, they want to make a transformation. They're making transformations in their life, and they want to add something to their body that shows their growth, that shows their evolution as a person, as a human, whether it be emotional, whatever it may be.
Right.
And I tattoo people for all different reasons. And some people, they just want to tattoo. Hey, I was here, and I remember who did this, and it was this moment. So all of them are valid. There's no wrong reason to get a tattoo.
But each one has a story.
Each one has a story.
There's a reason behind what everybody does. And I think that's why I think of it more as art.
Yes.
So ink is art for me now, as opposed to badass biker boys.
Yeah.
And when I was 20.
So that's how you used to view it.
Yes, that's how I used to view it.
Oh, that's like, gangsters.
Yes.
And now it's more like, oh, that's very artistic.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
And I ask for what to hear the story behind the tattoos is more where I get the feel. So looking at it as art, like, if you're looking at a piece of art, like if you're in a museum and you're looking at art, that's how I look at tattoos. When I see it on someone, I think of it as that's an art on somebody's body. But just like how the picture would tell a story, the picture on the body tells a story. So that's my view, and that's why I did mine. It started off like, I'm going to get a tattoo, and originally I wanted a tramp stamp. But I changed my mind on that because I wanted it to be more meaningful.
Yeah.
And so I respect what you do, and I respect it more that I'm older and I understand where the art comes from.
Yeah, there's definitely like a deep lineage of tattooers going all the way back to the beginning of time before there was social media or even just the beginning of civilization. And it shows like there's a lot of books I've read, and it just shows like indigenous people, they used to do markings on their body to symbolize fertility. They used to do it to symbolize status amongst their people. So tattoos have always existed.
Yes.
And they always will exist.
In good and bad connotations, because I know, like in slavery days, and like my family is, they're from India, they're generations behind from India. So a lot of what I know is that like the indentured servants that the British brought to the Caribbean and all the different places, they actually have tattoos on them.
Yeah.
Like some of them, either which family they belong to or which plantation they were in. So that was also one of the things that. So my grandmother had a tattoo.
Yeah.
Like she had something on her arm here. I really didn't know the meaning of it.
And she didn't. That was something that they put on her.
I never asked her. I mean, because I wasn't like paying attention that much. But it's curious. I'd like to know because she was not. She was born in Guyana. So the generations before her, the ones that came on the boat.
Okay.
So I'm not sure why she had hers, but I would definitely want to ask some of the generations on why it was. But I think it's fascinating. And I'm more like I said, when I see someone, I ask for the story and they tell me the story, and it's like a conversation piece, just like regular art is a conversation piece.
100%. Conversation starters. If you're like a bartender, and you have some awesome, colorful or just beautiful work, people are immediately going to ask, hey, that's awesome. I love your tattoo. Boom. It's a conversation starter.
Right.
And you notice a lot of bartenders, they always have like the dopest tattoos.
And now I have to look.
Yeah. You'll notice and you'll see. And it's one of those things like, even for tattoo artists, it's important to have a lot of tattoos because like just for example, yesterday I was at the gym and I got approached about my tattoos, and he's like, "Oh man, I love your tattoos. I'm looking to get something done." He didn't know I was a tattoo artist. He was asking me, "Oh, where did you get that done?" I was like, "Oh, I'm a tattoo artist, actually."
Free advertising, right?
Free advertising.
Yeah.
So it's important to have tattoos when you're in this industry because that's gonna also, one, show your dedication to what it is that you're doing. It's not so much about the things that you have tattooed. It just goes and it shows that you're dedicated to give up your temple
Mm-hmm.
and you're gonna put your pain into that craft. You're gonna put everything you have, your energy into this. And what more? What's a bigger sacrifice than giving your body to something? You know what I mean?
So I have
So,
to ask you about that pain part.
uh-huh. Yeah.
Because honestly, I have a high pain tolerance except for when I'm at the dentist.
Hmm.
But it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Hmm.
The pain, like, what did you do? Did you do something different?
I've never
Um,
I've never used numbing cream to get a tattoo.
but
I've
you didn't
never
put any numbing cream on me, did you?
No, never. I've never used I don't use numbing cream on any of my clients unless they come with the numbing cream.
Yeah.
And I don't ever recommend any of my clients to numb because I feel like you're supposed to feel that pain. I feel like it's part of it. You
But
know
it
what I
wasn't
mean?
it wasn't bad.
No. It's
It
not supposed to be.
pinched and yeah, you took little breaks on me because you know what you're doing.
Hmm.
But I didn't think it was. I was scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't think because people said if you're having it on your rib cage that that's a place that hurts, but it really didn't. So I was just like really surprised that it wasn't that bad. So and provided that you guys hear that, I did my tattoos without numbing cream.
She
Anthony
didn't
did
use
that.
any numbing
Okay,
cream. Warrior.
warrior hair. Okay.
Yes.
So I want to know how did you start with your, being in this industry and you sound like you love it. It is art for you. You've read books on it. So
Hmm.
in addition to that, how did you decide on going into it and what's your backstory on it?
Okay, so well, initially I never planned to be a tattoo artist ever. Ever, ever, ever. And my dad has been a tattoo artist and not just a tattoo artist, one of the greatest tattoo artists of his generation, like a very big titan in his industry. And so I always saw that. And then I saw him drawing when I was a kid. Always remember we were at Olive Garden. I saw him draw a little shark. And I looked at his shark and I was like, well, I'm never going to be a tattoo artist because my shark was like not going to ever look like that. You know what I mean? So I was
Ah,
so intimidated by that, by the skill, and so intrigued. I was just like, wow, I appreciate this because you're so good at it
right.
that I know that I'm not. I know that this isn't for me. So that was initially my thought process. So throughout high school, I didn't think I was ever gonna be a tattoo artist. You know what I mean?
So who's your dad? So you can
My
explain.
dad, his name is Chris Nunez.
Chris Nunez is this famous tattoo guy that was on all the tattoo show,
Yeah,
Miami Ink. And all
Miami Ink, Ink Masters. He did all that. It was really dope. I actually when he was filming Ink Masters in New York,
yeah.
I had the opportunity to go and get tattooed on not on the show, but like in the back room for my birthday.
Oh,
And he tattooed me, and I would always go get to see all the whole facility and how they shot everything, and then I got to watch like a few episodes of it on the TV. I never like watched throughout the whole seasons,
right,
which I guess like I don't know why I was never a TV person,
right.
and it
Me
wasn't that I
neither.
wasn't interested in my dad's show. I watched Miami Ink. I love Miami Ink,
Right.
and I love Ink Master. I just wasn't a TV person, but the times I did watch it, I would always laugh because I understood the dry humor about a lot of things that he said. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
know I know him very personally, so
Right.
like, so it was really cool to just see everything behind the scenes and stuff like that.
How old were you? He did your first tattoo?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, when I was in San Diego, I was at a house party. I was like 16 or 15 years old, and this drunk kid had a tattoo machine, and I was like,
Oh
dude, let me
no.
get a sweet little thigh tat, and boom, got a sweet little thigh tat. But he did my first real tattoo,
Right. Yeah. So
my
that
first
that
real
was an
real one.
unconscious tattoo.
This one was just a practice
Yeah.
one. This one doesn't count.
So he did your first real tattoo,
Yeah.
and then does anybody else do tattoo for you, or
Oh
was he
yeah,
the only
tons. No,
one?
no,
The
no.
tons. Yeah.
I'm not like this is for I'm a canvas. You know what
You're
I
a
mean? So
canvas.
if
Yes.
I see I let people who just start tattooing. I've let people who just start tattooing have no business tattoo me. I've let people who are amazing, and
Yes.
I love that, and that's awesome. And my body's open canvas, so I'm just looking for the best tattooer, not the best, but the ones that I resonate with.
Right.
For me,
Yeah.
the best for me.
The connection.
The connection.
Yeah.
The
Hmm.
connection has to be there, and energy has to be good. I'm like, let's go.
So since you said you didn't want to become, even though you saw your dad, you thought he was an artist, right?
Hmm.
And he is an artist.
He is, yeah, yeah.
So, um, but you thought he was too good, and you didn't think you were gonna live up to that. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's like you know, when you see somebody with such amounts of talent, it's not that like I always loved art ever since I was a child. I would spend so much time drawing. You know, I knew my dad was a tattoo artist too, so maybe in the back of my mind that was also like another reason for drawing. But I love drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I loved making things on a piece of paper happen, whether they look good, bad, or whatever it was. I just loved what I was doing on the paper and the stories that I could tell using
Everything was a
using that
canvas.
pencil and using that paper. I could tell a story, whether it was little stick figures going to war
Right.
or it was like a little dude swimming and a big shark underneath. You know, it was just all cool things I liked. So, you know, when I saw him do it, I was like, wow, that's amazing. You know, they do it's all the things, but I forget to realize that that's not just the natural ability. That's a lot of energy put into
Right.
that craft. A lot of studies, a lot of pain, a lot of, all types of
Hard
stuff.
work.
Hard work, right?
Hmm.
Channeling,
Commitment.
commitment,
Hmm.
dedication right into
Hmm.
that piece of paper. So it's nothing but respect for that. And at that age, you can't really recognize it like that. So I brushed it off and I said, well, that's not my path. And I became a firefighter instead.
Hmm.
And I had got my EMT certification and became a firefighter. And I did all my schooling down here in Broward.
Right.
After I got done with all my schooling, there was like 2 years of like they were telling me I had to wait, and I was an entrepreneur always, so I
Right.
started working, selling jet skis in Fort Lauderdale,
Hmm.
and so while I was selling these jet skis, I started to make good money. I started to invest in cryptocurrency. I had made a lot of money as a young person, about
Right.
18 years old, before it was like cool to be like like social media vibes like that. Like I was
Right.
already doing it. So I was doing it from a very young age. I was an entrepreneur. I started as an employee, then I started running the company, and then I started figuring out a deal with the owner, and I was making cash that kids weren't making at that
Right.
time, and then I was putting that cash into XRP at the time,
Hmm.
and a couple different other cryptocurrencies, and this was during Trump's first term. So during Trump's first term, it started to rise.
Right.
I think it was like 2021, and I had like tripled the money I put in, so I was able to finish my EMT license, and then I was like, okay, I don't want to wait to become a firefighter. I'm gonna go somewhere that will hire me now. So I
Hmm.
looked up a couple things where my license would be transferable, and I went to South Carolina.
Right.
When I was in South Carolina, I was able to get hired as a firefighter. I bought my own apartment, bought my car. I set my life up. I was like 20 years old. And then I was like, okay, here we are. And it was the worst decision, but best decision I ever made because it allowed me to realize that that was absolutely not where I should have been. But I it was absolutely where I should have been at the same time.
So was it that the firefighting was not for you, or just South Carolina was not for you, or
The
a
whole the
combination?
whole structure of it.
So I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason.
Mhm.
And what's not a blessing is a lesson.
Mhm.
So you have to go through certain things in life to realize
Yeah.
that it wasn't for you.
100%.
Because you don't want to go back and say, oh, I should have done that, when you think that that's what you should have done, but you never know until you're in it
Yeah.
to understand if that's the right move.
100%.
How
And
long were you there?
I was there for like 1 year.
Hmm.
And I was doing it, and then I had taken a couple trips to go see my father. It was in LA and Miami, and I just was like, what the hell am I doing right now with my life? I need to get the hell out of here. And if I didn't get fired from my job, I would have stayed. I got fired because I don't know. I always think about this. The reason why I got fired, I always think that subconsciously I did this on purpose.
Yeah,
And I
you
know
didn't
it's
want to
totally
be there.
totally horrible to do that in such an industry where they're saving lives and it's so frowned upon. But I literally missed a day of work, and I was like, "Oh, I'm shit. I'm actually supposed to be at work today," and I was still in Miami. And so I was like, all right. When I packed it up, went home, packed it up, and drove down with a big smile on my face all 10 hours. I said, man, all this stuff happened. I should have quit a better way.
Right.
I should have made a decision.
Hindsight
But
is 2020.
hindsight's 2020,
You
and
learned from that too,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yep.
100%. And
Yep.
now I'm going to Miami, and I'm real hyped, and I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. But yeah, slowly I worked my way, and I figured out that I wanted a tattoo when I was here, and boom, Then I started doing my apprenticeship at House of a Thousand Roses with Tattoo Pin and my dad, and that's where I began. That's where my journey began.
So when you told that your dad that you wanted to start, so I can see that entrepreneurial spirit in you, like for even when we had conversations when I was having my tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
So um the entrepreneurial mindset doesn't necessarily mean that you never are an employee. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that you're, to me, the mindset means you think outside of the box, right? So you figure out how to make the best of a situation.
Yeah.
So that's what the mindset is. So
Mm-hmm.
I could have seen that already from you. You're so young and you were asking financial questions. You talked about traveling and having goals. So when I'm teaching, so we're going to talk a little bit about finance. When I my models are, you have to be intentional. Whatever you do, whatever you're doing with money, it has to be, you have to do it intentionally. You have to know, if you, even if you want to, let's say, splurge on things, right? You don't want to do it mindlessly.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do it intentionally. You want to realize, yes, I'm splurging, but
Mm-hmm.
that's my choice,
Hundred
right?
percent.
So my thoughts are, what I teach is intentional money management in everything that you do, and there's three parts to it, right? So having the motivation, which is the goals,
Mm-hmm.
what is it that you want to do? Like, you have goals of traveling. So now you have to get to that point. How do you get to traveling? What are the paths to that? Unfortunately or fortunately, they all include money, right? They all include finances.
Yeah.
So you told me about your travel goals, and then you have the mindset. So you have to have the entrepreneurial mindset. I think entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
that mindset is something that is not something you learn. You can develop it, but it's something that you come with. That's something that,
I think we have a lot of in this generation.
yeah,
I think we have a lot of entrepreneurs, but I think the real spirit of the entrepreneur is not what people make it out to be. I think it's somebody that's absolutely 100% willing to go out there and risk it all and really like have that spirit of what it
right,
means in your hearts of hearts to be an entrepreneur.
right.
It's to just be an adventurer. At the end of the day, we're all just here experiencing this, and it's adventuring fearlessly into this world and just seeing what things are all about, and you're going to make connections naturally. And I think that's like you're letting go of a lot of like these mindsets that are like so
That
uh,
doesn't serve
like
you.
in this box.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That doesn't
just
serve you. Yeah.
it's not all black and white. There's a lot of things out there in the world that when we travel and we get to see these things for ourselves, we realize that it's much bigger than us, and we're just a part of this experiencing. And for me, being an entrepreneur is just me being myself, and being my most authentic self. You know.
And sometimes you think you know who that is, but
Hmm.
you're young, so you're still growing, and you're still finding out who you really are. Also, I think the entrepreneurial spirit is part of your journey, right?
Yeah.
So, like, for me, like, people who are very risk averse, they think I'm a risky person, but
Hmm.
I do not take. I knew I was born with that entrepreneurial spirit, and I think that for me, it's, I take calculated risk.
Hmm.
No risk do I take that I have not worked out. It almost never works out the way I plan it in my head, but that's okay because I know it's not, but I still have a plan,
Hundred
right?
percent.
So I have my plan. I'm moving forward with it. I just told you that I'm closing on my office condo on Monday.
Hmm.
I didn't start off that way. We started off looking for a space, and I'm like, okay, if we're gonna rent a podcast studio, my motto is, you pay rent, you pay somebody else's mortgage, so I need to buy it. So that's why I'm buying it. We rented it to see how this works. This is good. And now we're going to be buying our space. So, did I, if you had asked me a year ago if I was going to be buying an office condo
Hmm.
in 5 days, I would say no, because I didn't know that. I've never done commercial. I don't know. Like, I invested in a bank. Did I plan on doing that? If the opportunity comes about, you look at it, you see if it's something that's going to work for you. But to me, entrepreneurism and having a very open mind,
Hmm.
you have an open mind, an opportunity comes to you, you look at it, you're like, okay, this looks like a calculated risk. You're not just throwing yourself in an ocean and you don't know how to swim, but you're putting yourself out there with these things in mind. Okay, this is what my plan is. This is what my goal is. That's an entrepreneurial spirit. Is being able to think with what comes to you.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling
Mm-hmm.
is the biggest way to learn, is the biggest education, the biggest way to get educated, in my opinion. When my kids were little, we traveled a lot. We still travel now. And one of my oldest son teachers said to me, and he was maybe 10 or 11, that the things that Brandon knows you cannot learn from a book. So I agree with you with the traveling. You learn so much about other cultures. I am a true believer that we are all interrelated.
100%.
We might be building a car in America, but the parts come from 10 different countries.
100%.
So we need to understand that nothing is truly us alone. You know, it comes with a team, it comes with a company, it comes with the company,
Mm-hmm.
like all the things that you are and you're doing. How did you get to that? Yes, your dad did this, but you, like you said to me before, you don't like to say that he's your dad.
No, I love to say that he's my
No, I
dad.
mean, you don't
I
like
just don't
to,
like to. I don't like to flex that
right.
he's
You
my
don't like to
dad
flex the
because it
nepotism
is a
muscle.
flex.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't. I trust me. I love to. I
No,
love to. I
Chris, he loves to
yes.
tell people that you're his dad,
Much
okay?
yeah, much appreciate. Like
You love him as your
I
dad.
love him as my dad. I just don't want to.
Flex that
I don't
nepotism
immediately,
muscle.
especially not on my clients immediately. You
Hmm.
know, and a lot of them already know. So
Yeah,
it's not
we
like a
didn't
big
know and you didn't
secret.
tell us.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So it's one of those pleasant little surprises.
I
Like,
like
oh my
that
God,
though.
he's your dad. You know, and they are able to make that connection. I think it's awesome. And I'm not afraid to. You know,
Yeah, no, you're not,
I'll
and I
share
like
and
that.
you know, just I see it. I just do it in balance.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
like how
I
you
try to
did
feel
it.
it out.
I respect that as a young person, you're not flexing the nepotism muscle. I respect that
Hmm.
you want to make it on your own, but I also respect that you know that your dad is an amazing person and you are proud to have him as your
Yeah,
parent.
and then the other thing is like why, and also like just being honest with myself. Um, I think like even like I'm able to be right there with my dad. He's opened so many doors. Why
Right.
would I not walk through the doors that he spent his whole life
Absolutely.
opening for his children? That
Right.
would be more of an egotistical thing
Yes.
and a mistake in my business too.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
why would I not accept a an olive branch? That's it wouldn't make sense to me.
It wouldn't make sense.
So I do my best to
Take those opportunities. Yeah.
take
Yeah.
those opportunities as much as they come and be respectful and responsive and just be there and be
Yeah.
present because I think it's there's no reason not to be.
It's the same. So my two kids, my
Hmm.
older son was an engineering major, and then he changed his major and he's a finance major, so he's studying for his CFA right now.
Hmm.
And that's a financial analyst, a certified financial analyst. There are many doors that
Hmm.
have, because I do what I do in finance and I'm a finance person,
Hmm.
there are many doors that are opening for them.
Hmm.
And the other one have tried like four different things already and he's going into finance too, a different part, but that's what he says. We'll see what happens. But I do think it would be a mistake for them not to go through some of the doors that I've opened for them. But just being, just like how you, like they would tell me, just being around me, they understand more. Like we did our own investment on investing on the stock market while during COVID. We didn't have anything to do. I read, I baked, and we were trading with my two kids.
That's dope. Sounds
So,
like fun.
but so having a mom that does that, right?
Mhm.
So why not give them that exposure? Because that's what I do. So it's the same with your dad. You were exposed to the world because that's what he did. But there are doors that will open it. But also with my kids, I'm not like, I don't want them to come work for me immediately. I like that you went on your journey
Hmm.
before you came to
Yeah, right. You gotta
before
know.
you started working with that.
And it also just felt more authentic,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
Because I wasn't I didn't like automatically assume I wanted to be a tattoo artist when I was a
right.
child. You know what I mean? Because I just was like, It was really what I was doing, exactly what I felt was right at the time, and I still do. And it kind of just that's how the what I was led to do, to keep it.
Do you think you appreciated more because you went on that journey like you did?
I felt more. Like I said, like it was more of an authentic experience for me, and it's been an authentic experience for me leading into getting to tattoo.
And do you feel that so I'm asking this for my own self because with my kids,
Hmm.
right? Do you feel like dad didn't force you into doing this? Like
No, dad made sure that it was the right. Like he didn't. It wasn't something that he wanted me to do.
right,
It's a very very hard lifestyle.
right.
You understand, like being a tattoo artist, being an artist in general, is
Yes.
not an easy thing to do.
It's not.
There's no retirement. There's no
Well,
guarantee.
we're working on that for you.
Yeah, there's no guarantee you're going to be successful. And when you take risks, like he takes risks, you know, life is crazy,
Yeah.
and you have to be. And there's nothing that's going to get you ready for that. It's
Yeah.
just you got to be all in. And he felt the thing that I was all in, and he was supportive but very critical and very, like
Yes.
structured with me
Yes.
from off the rip.
Yep.
When he knew I wanted to tattoo, it wasn't like, "Oh, come on in." It was
Right.
like, "What do you, da, 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 da,"
Right.
And
He was
but
being a dad.
being a dad, being a teacher, being a leader, and showing me what tattooing is all about and what I need to do to be a tattooer, a
Right.
real tattooer.
Right.
You know,
And it's hard work. No pain, no gain, no pun
no
intended.
games, no games.
So
Yeah,
you but you
yeah,
know, you have to put in the work, you have to
yeah.
put in the it's just like anything else. It's a field.
And it's sometimes it still doesn't pay off.
Well, I
You know what I
mean,
mean? Like you could do, and that's another thing that younger tattoo artists, they need to understand is like, upon entering the industry, I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, you're able to charge this much for a piece, right?" And it's like they think that they're going to be able to do that from the first
right.
year or 2 years of them being a tattoo artist, and it's a very rude awakening when you can't pay your rent, when you
Hmm.
can't do this. No one wants to get tattooed because you're not at that level. You don't have enough social proof. You don't have enough experience.
Right.
You don't have a catalog. You don't have anything,
Right.
right? So it takes years and years to build yourself up. I've only been tattooing for 2 years, and I'm so grateful that I'm in the position that I'm in, and people want to get tattooed with me, but it takes about 5 years to really see where you're gonna land.
You also have your great process. When I
Hmm.
tell people the process we went through in me getting my stuff, like
Hmm.
Chala went back and forth with you with the pictures, then
Hmm.
we, several conversations with that, and then we made the deposit, we made the appointment. I went in, you stenciled me. I didn't like how low it was, you fixed
Hmm.
it, so you drew on your iPad thingy. So it was like, it's not just, okay, I go in and I get inked.
Yeah.
It was a real process. Going in, talking about the process and how it works, that's just like for me, right? If you're an accounting student, let's say you're an accountant and you're an accounting student, you came off the bat, you're not going to go in with making the same money that a 3 decade person with experience is going to make,
Hmm.
So the price of things, the cost of you
Hmm.
is, and the price for you goes up with your experience, goes up with your exposure, goes up with what your talent is.
100%. And for me, it's also like finding the balance between having a good price to where you're comfortable and also still being able to support the common people too
Right.
with your artwork.
Yeah.
And I never want to be out of touch.
Right.
I never want to be out of touch from the working man. I don't want to just cater to the highest end.
Right.
That's not what I'm here to do.
Right.
I love tattooing normal working class people and keeping it humble with them and chopping it up, and money's
Right.
great. I love money,
Right.
but I'm not trying to get absolutely
It's
rich
not everything.
off of reaping
Right.
these people's bank accounts just because they love and support me and they
Right.
respect me and they want to get tattooed of me. So I want to do my
See,
due
that's the
diligence
entrepreneurial spirit right there.
to also make myself accessible and in touch with all my clientele,
That's
all
amazing.
types of clientele. And that's why I have clientele
Chris, you
that
did a good job with this one.
I appreciate that. I have clientele that are billionaires, and I have clientele that are,
Yep.
regular working people,
Right.
and I can relate to each one of them on different levels
Right.
in a human way,
Yep.
and it has nothing, no difference with their tax bracket for me. But I do have a minimum price. I'm not cheap, so let me just get that out of the way too.
Same thing. Same thing. I have a minimum price and I'm not cheap either. But the experience, it comes along with that, and like for you, I do a lot of non-for-profit work. So like you always want to be giving back to your society and be in touch with the common person.
100%.
So success doesn't mean that you need to um uh be out of touch, you
No.
know. So you always try to be as humble as possible,
Hmm.
and you're super young, so you have so much more to go do and learn and experience, and I'm sure your dad will tell you that
Yes.
lots of times. I tell my
Yes.
kids that because half of the time they don't think I know what I'm talking about. But they realize it. So I like I said, I like that you went on your journey. I like that your dad let you go on your journey. I let my kids, it takes them longer. It took them longer. And I never wanted them to go into finance. I wanted them to find whatever it is that they wanted to do. And it took my older son 4 years of college, almost graduating in engineering, to decide he doesn't want to do that. But they also get the experience of mom and the doors that I have.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's the reason they wanted to do it, but they being around that world that your parents did, you just get to learn that better.
Hmm.
You get to learn and become more familiar with it, as opposed to other people. So you have that opportunity or that advantage,
Hmm.
just the learning experience of the advantage. And I much respect for your parents to like sit you down. Okay, this is what it is. This is how to do it. I can see that you're going to become you have the entrepreneurial mindset, no doubt. You have the drive and you understand, you've read books. It's not like you just pick up one day and say my dad did this and I do. So you're doing your due diligence. So I respect that about it. So now let's talk about, you said you don't have a retirement. What do you mean by saying a tattoo artist doesn't have a retirement?
What I mean by that is, you know how, like, if you work for the government, they set up, some type of pension. You go to the military, you have some type of pension. You have something to lean back on. Um, and I know that, I could, by saving, and I'm sure you're gonna tell me exactly that I do have a retirement. I need to realize my retirement.
You
Is that
do,
what we're
yes.
okay?
So what you're talking about, so I'm going to explain it to you a little bit more, right?
Okay.
So when you are an employee,
Okay.
think certain things are given to you. Like when you do work for the government, you do have a pension. So
Hmm.
most government jobs, you have a certain pension. And years ago, before my time and your dad's time and your way before your time, when the baby boomers, maybe your grandparents, right?
Hmm.
When they worked, most of the companies were big. The entrepreneurial spirit was not something that was massaged and encouraged. Not There were not many small businesses like there are now. Most businesses were large businesses that they would do everything for you. So you would have something called a defined benefit plan where they put money in for you, and they have a your health insurance for you and all of that stuff. So you didn't have to worry about it. You didn't have to be financially educated as much. Today, even when you're an employee, most employees do not have pension plans anymore. Most companies do not have it. They have something called 401ks. Those are called defined contribution plans. So the employee, where it would be you or I, would have to contribute before the company contributes. So if you're not paying attention, you will end up with nothing. So a lot of people that think that being an employee is the safest bet, yes, it's a safe bet. It's not as entrepreneurially spirit things to do, but it also is, you have to be financially educated a lot about it. So when it comes to having your own business, yes, you should be saving on your own because even employees need to save on their own. Even employees need to have Roth IRAs and need to have regular IRAs in addition to what they're doing with their companies because that's not going to be enough. The world that we're living in now, not entrepreneurs definitely need to be more financially educated because the thing is you just got to be smart about your money. It's not how much you make, it's how much you're keeping.
Hmm.
So as a person, you are going to, because you can charge a certain price, right, for your tattoos. Then you have to kind of divide that up how they would have divided it for you as an employee.
Hmm.
But except you are taking more risk, so when you do get paid, it should be a little bit more, so you can divide it up. Does that make sense, or do you have a question on that?
I guess I do have a question. So, when you say like how much you keep, are you referring to like because like when you get paid,
Hmm.
right? Just say when a client gets paid or paying me,
Hmm.
that money's still not mine, right?
No.
So you're saying I need to pay myself somehow. And that's what a lot of entrepreneurs, because they get paid and they get all this money in their bank account. But did you pay yourself in terms of what did you pay your future?
Right.
Yes, no?
So it's paying your, I think people, sometimes younger entrepreneur does not understand what it means paying themselves. They think that it means maybe paying your car payment or,
No.
like they think that it's buying something for themselves. But I don't think of spending money. When I spend money on something,
Hmm.
I always think of what my return is, right? Whether my return is fulfillment in my heart,
Hmm.
or it's an experience when I travel, or it's actual interest on the money, monetary interest, or so it's an investment. Even when I spend money on education, my kids' education, I am not gonna say, okay, my kid got into Harvard and I'm gonna spend $100,000 a year for my kid to do a degree at Harvard in history.
Hmm.
Is that gonna be what is gonna be my return on that
And
money?
you have to look at that as a parent.
But you have to look at that as a person.
Hmm.
So when you're
Yeah.
spending your money, you want to look at um, investment. You have to always think about is what am I investing in? Because sometimes you're investing in equipment for your stuff, right?
Hmm.
So when you're investing in equipment, you have to think about the type of equipment you're getting, how long you're going to get it for, what you can afford currently, because you might not be able to afford the best one that you might want, but you want to get somewhere in the middle where maybe in 2 3 years you're going to upgrade to the next one. So because you don't want to spend all your money on the best equipment and then you didn't put anything away, because there's something called dollar cost average, right? So you want to put a little bit every single time, especially now that the market is shit. You want to start putting money now,
Okay.
so because the market is so low, this is your opportunity to start thinking about, can I tell you when? Because apparently these days it's very unstable. It doesn't go with the normal metrics of what I would have learned
Hmm.
in economic class, because it's not making sense on what's happening. But we still have really good companies in America. We still have really good matrix that we work with. So I would say don't stop. If you're investing, don't
Hmm.
stop investing.
And let me ask you one question. And for this is for the person that doesn't know too much about finances, but they
Okay.
just they get Robin Hood on their phone, and they're like, I want to start simple.
Mm-hmm.
What are we buying? What do you recommend young people to buy that are looking to do long term investments with a little bit of just a little bit of money here and there
Not
and
Bitcoin.
building up? Not Bitcoin. So
Could you
what?
give that?
So that's no Bitcoin, but what are we buying? What do we buy?
So there's two different kinds of, when you're in the market,
Hmm.
you're either a trader or an investor.
Okay.
Okay? So traders are people who will buy Bitcoin and they think they try to time it. Sometimes they time it right and they make big bucks. Sometimes they don't time it right
Yeah.
and they lose their
They're
underwear.
coin flipping.
Yeah. They're coin flipping. Like, for example, I'll
Yeah.
give you an example. I did this when I was your age.
Hmm.
So when I was 21 years old, during that time, it was called the .com era, right? And we had all these .com companies.
Hmm.
I was in college and I'm like, all right, I'm going to I didn't know anything. I was in college, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about the market. I'm from an immigrant family. We didn't do stock markets. We did
Hmm.
real estate.
Hmm.
Land is easy.
Yeah.
So I invested in a stock called phone.com and I bought it for $100.
Okay.
I sold it for point 0.2 cents. So because I didn't know enough about investing, I lost my underwear, basically,
Hmm.
there. So if I was the person that I am today or whatever I learned, I would have looked at phone.com. I would have, because today on Robinhood, on Schwab, on Fidelity, there's tons of things that you can research. And you don't need to research for 5, 6 hours. You can look up the charts. You can look up what a company did. You can look up what a company did 5 years ago. You can look up where the company stock was going. There's so many things that you can see. It's all there. So I would have looked at phone.com and I would have looked at what assets they have. And they had no assets. So they were just trading on momentum. They call it momentum trading because momentum trading is when a stock is hot and people are buying because the stock goes up when you buy and sell it. So the more action it gets, the more it goes up,
Hmm.
right? So that's what was happening in the dot com era. Nothing was worth anything. It was just it was trading on momentum.
Hmm.
So I would not do that. Don't trade on momentum. That's trading. You
Hmm.
know, you want to invest in good companies where you see that they have good assets. So no matter what's happening in the market now, no matter what's happening in the market now, you don't want to worry about it. We have 10 minutes. That's why I always let her do that. No matter what's happening in the market now, you don't want to have to worry about it. You don't want to have to be like, oh my gosh. So I wouldn't put my grocery money in the market. So I would say if you're a young person and you got Robinhood or you got Fidelity or you got Schwab, either one of those. I'm not a Robinhood fan. I'm kind of a Schwab fan. Um, Plugging Schwab here. I would just like I started my niece. She started off with $500. I just started her. She turned 18.
Hmm.
So we sat down and we put $500 in her account, and I said I would say in put this money in the S&P 500.
Okay.
So if you look at the SPY they call it,
Hmm.
right? If you look at the S&P 500, if you want to be a long-term investor, this is the
Hmm.
safest place to be. So in the last 15 years, which we've gone through two downturns in the
Hmm.
markets, then the S&P 500 has averaged a 9.5% return.
So ultimately, we're up on the S&P.
Well, besides the last 2 months, because nothing is in the matrix right now. I don't understand the last 2 months. That it's been very shaky.
Okay.
So I can't really explain it right now, but I still would not invest.
Got you.
Like a lot of people would say to me, "Oh, it's too risky for me. I'm gonna stop putting money in my this and that." No,
So
keep putting money.
So how about companies and this sounds kind of crazy, but like even looking in the future,
Hmm.
like companies like Apple, I don't even see them being such a solid investment because of AI. How do we know that Apple's going to be just because
So
they're such a titan? What if something comes out that supersedes the iPhone? We're going to have so much futuristic technology coming out that how are you going to predict what's a safe bet and what's not?
you Apple has in each company they always do something called forward earnings,
Hmm.
right? So they usually, and I do this for small companies that I do planning for
Yeah.
myself, tax planning or business planning.
Hmm.
We project what your earnings would be for the next 5 years, and why would your earnings be that? So even like when Microsoft was starting out, right?
Hmm.
Microsoft was not making any money, right? But if you believe in the product that they're putting out, when you see their earnings and what their plans are for the next 5 years, you know that they're eventually going to make money,
Yeah.
and where it is. I'm going to go into a stock that I think that boys are more, so Tesla, right?
Hmm.
So when I invested in Tesla a while back,
Hmm.
nobody was making EVs. Tesla had the market for EVs. They had the computer, futuristic. They had the technology for it. They had the in workings of it. Now, through the last 5 years, I have friends that own the car, and the car itself is not well made, but the technology is amazing because Tesla is not Elon Musk was not a car company. He had a really good technology. I mean, he's a brilliant man. The technology is amazing, but the car he was making around the technology is not really working out,
Mhm.
right? So I invested in Tesla up to that point. But then, like the last 3 to 5 years, right? Ford started making EV and they're a
Mhm.
car company.
Mhm.
So now Tesla doesn't have monopoly on this technology.
Mhm.
Ford has it, Toyota has it. All the car companies have the technology. So me personally, I would not invest in Tesla going forward because they're going to lose market share because
Okay.
now this all this technologies with the car companies, and
Mhm.
someone would prefer buying a good solid car with the technology in it
Mhm.
as opposed to buying the technology with a bad car around it. So when he was alone with the technology, it was a great stock. But then when that time passes, then so you got to look at the company and see where their future is. So
Mhm.
I don't see the future with Tesla, so I wouldn't buy it. Again, I actually sold some of mine. But purely the company itself,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't, that's what I'm looking at. So I'm
Yeah.
looking at all these other car companies that are building with this technology now.
Gotcha.
So the market share has moved from
Mhm.
him just Tesla just monopolizing it, all these other car companies making it.
Yeah.
So whereas when it comes with Apple, I believe that all these technology companies are knows about this, knows about AI, understands that that's part of our new world, and are gonna keep up with it.
Yeah.
And if you actually, I don't know if you have an iPhone, but if you actually look at the iPhone, right, and you look at, they're always updating, as opposed to the Android. How often does an Android add
I have
it?
no clue because
Yeah,
I don't got one.
you know how one, yeah.
I've had an
How
iPhone.
often does an
Yeah.
Android update? Like my son would show me. I said, "Why would we have Apple all over the house?" Right? Like what? He's like, "Because they're always checking, they're always updating, they're always
Yeah.
moving with
Figuring out
things. They're always
bugs. Yeah.
figuring out the bugs. They're always
Yeah.
up with their technology."
Yeah.
So a lot of people despise Apple. Uh, as far as I can see, the way that their balance sheet looks and their forward earnings,
Mhm.
I will still continue to invest in
Okay.
Apple.
Fair enough. And that's awesome investment then. Apple it is. We're going for it.
Awesome. Well, do you like the advice though? That's the
I
way.
oh yeah, I'm not
Do
I
you?
don't just like it. I'm gonna probably invest in Apple this year
So,
because of our little chat here.
but you understand how you should be looking at a company, how
Yeah.
someone that's
Look
a
for
new
their
investor.
assets. I get it.
Yeah.
Don't like it has to they have to own some
Yeah, they
type of
have to have good assets.
yeah.
They have to have good
Good
future.
foundation, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll give you another, and your dad might remember this if he's going to watch this whole podcast. We have this company called Kodak.
Uh-huh.
Do you know Kodak?
Mhm.
It Yes, the camera company,
Mhm.
right?
It's Kodak
So
moment.
50 years ago, Kodak was one of a blue chip. It was a blue chip. It was one of the best companies to invest in at that time.
Mhm.
And with IBM, and I forgot the name of the bank. It was a bunch of them, right? So now Kodak is extinct. Why? We don't develop film anymore. We don't use those cameras anymore. We're not like they're non-existent, right? Why did Kodak go extinct? What do you think?
Probably cuz iPhone.
Probably yes, but the main reason is they didn't keep up with the technology. So
Mhm.
a company would extinct. A company like they didn't realize that film was going to change into digital, right? So now most pictures are digital. You can take a picture, whatever. You don't have to develop film. They were not bringing themselves into the future. If they brought themselves into the future, they would have developed digital technology. But they didn't do that.
But now like everyone's also into like that old school like that vintage is coming back heavy. Like
Vintage is coming back heavy,
people are
yeah.
thrifting, they like old cars, they're realizing dang like they had it good back then. Like they had it down to a T. So it's also like that's coming back heavy too.
Well, it's
I feel like vintage and old school stuff and film and all that is like on the comeback.
yeah, but would you give up your iPhone to wait 10 days to develop your
I need my
pictures?
iPhone to make money, but I'll buy. I'll you know I'll if I'm really into it, I'll let somebody take a picture and they'll develop it. For me.
Exactly. So vintage is good and it's coming back. I agree.
Let's come back.
But it's not gonna be it. You
No.
still want your iPhone.
Of course, the iPhone. Look, the iPhone is so addicting, and people are on it for countless hours a day. They're spending so much energy on their phones that, this little thing is gonna is getting all the attention. So
Well,
that's
it all, everything that we do. So the last thing I'm gonna talk to you about today, Anthony, is the everything that we do. Too much of anything is no good.
Mhm.
That's my motto, right? So AI, for example, there's a lot of critics about AI, but I believe if it's used for good, it's an amazing thing, and I cannot wait to see where it goes. Already, it helps me to write my emails. I'm not a good writer. I'm a math person, right? So I just sit there. I put all the stuff I want to say in my thoughts. I
Mhm.
put it down, and I'm like, okay, organize this for me, and it organizes it, which would take me a while to put into words and make it sound nice what I want to say.
yeah,
So I don't need to spend time doing that. That's a waste of my time. I need to spend time more critically thinking of all the different things I want to do.
yeah,
So if my time is spent for an hour formulating the email, I'm saving 50 minutes by just, and when I put it in and I'm like, okay, well, I don't like how this is, I change it. I don't like how that is. But it's grammatically correct, it's spelled properly, and it's organized, it flows. So it helps me that way. So if it's used for, bad things like, hacking and all these different things, that it's bad. But that's everything in life. It's everything in life. If you take too many vitamins, you're going to poison yourself. But vitamins is good, but not too much. Right?
100%.
You're looking at me like, what is she saying?
No, 100%.
So, no matter what it is that you do in life, if you're traveling all the time, you're going to be exhausted. So, you want to travel a little bit, you want to enjoy the experience. You're not going to enjoy it if you're always doing it. So, it becomes where you got to moderate everything that you do in life. And if you moderate everything you do in life, you are going to be successful, you are going to be wealthy, and not wealthy just with money, wealthy with your experiences, wealthy with your thoughts, wealthy with your life, wealthy with your being.
Mm-hmm.
So wealth
100%.
comes in all these different forms.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
So I hope you enjoyed being on the show.
Absolutely.
Maybe
Thank you
Dad
for
will
having me.
come if he sees you, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe
You
you
never
can
know.
convince him to want to be on my podcast.
Yeah.
There's a standing invitation for you, Chris, to come on the podcast, okay?
Yeah.
And thank you. Anthony is amazing. You did a great job with him. I cannot wait to see where he goes with his entrepreneurial spirit.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much,
being
Jay.
here.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for having me.